you could see what I see, our community and unity, no frustration from brutality, with our black nation a reality.
This is my perspective, it's my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, it's my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, it's my perspective, my perspective, it's my perspective.
Welcome everybody to the New African Perspective, the show that is dedicated to the liberation of new African people. I am your host, Brother Prophecy, but I'm not by myself. Of course, always I'm with the powerful, the beautiful, the intellectual President and Vice President of the Republic of New Africa, and none other than
Sama Free the Land.
Mama Aya, Free the Land.
That's right. And we are part of something called the New African Independence Movement. And in that movement, we struggle and advocate, and we're going to get land independence, self-determination, reparations, and we're going to create an economic system that ain't about exploiting everybody, ain't about getting over everybody, but about making sure that everybody got everything that we need in order to survive and thrive in a beautiful world. Yeah, and y'all might have noticed, we've been kind of gone for a while, this particular show, because we kind of fresh off of Nation Day. We had to kind of recharge and replug, but we're back, y'all. But how y'all been doing? How this is the first time we've heard from y'all since Nation Day. How was Nation Day?
Oh,
Excellent.
It was fantastic.
Excellent. Yeah, we were blessed to just what I call touch, communicate, agree, reason, plan, strategize, everything that you could think of. That's the purpose of New African Nation Day. And we left it. We really didn't have enough time, but we had to make use of the time that we had. And we have a lot of projects, a lot of goals and missions to accomplish in 2023, leading into 2024. So very, very vibrant meeting. I was quite impressed and grateful.
Yeah.
Whenever we have the opportunity with new Africans faces, I see the whole bunch of right to add on faces that we saw the prior year. So anytime we have the opportunities and doors open up to link and to create a united front, is successful.
Definitely agreed 1,000%. Yeah, I mean, I was impressed because I met so many individuals who are doing so many great things within the community as far as nation building. And a lot of times we can get frustrated and we seem like nobody doing anything and nothing happening. Don't believe the hype. Nation building is alive and well, and we got people doing wonderful things. Matter of fact, since y'all been gone, I've interviewed a couple of individuals who've been strong in nation building, and it is very inspirational. And it just, man, I'm just looking forward to what the Republic of New Africa has in store for us in the future. Just a wonderful time. But when we left off, we had been going over this document. It's part of the Code of Emotion, the Declaration of Independence. And it laid out the aims of the revolution. And I think we're up to that third aim of the revolution. And y'all, excuse me, I don't have it queued up right now, but
I got it. To build, you got it? Okay.
I think it is right here. You go for it.
To build a new society that is better than what we now know, and as perfect as man can make it.
Definitely to build a new society that is better than we now know and as perfect as man can make it. Wow, what y'all think about that one? About that aim and goal of the revolution is to build a better society, not just a different society, not just a new society, but a better one, and as best as man can possibly, as perfect as man can possibly make it. You know what y'all think about that?
Well, just that first part, to build a new society that is better than what we now know. So in order to even do that, first you got to know exactly what it is that you want to build that's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then your personality, your character, your makeup got to match up to what it is that you want to build. Meaning that you got to create new habits. You got to change. And I want folks to know that coming into this, you have to change your habits. You have to change your rituals in order to get results, okay, that you want. So, these are made, these are heavily packed one line statements. You understand what I'm saying? That we say that we are committing our world and our life to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and to make, and to make as perfect as man can make it, as perfect as man can make it. Well, then we got to look at what do we consider perfect, and how are we going to, what are the steps that are necessary to get there, So, this is a whole science to it. I yield back.
Exactly. Uh,
I definitely concur with what President Sa says, because if we are saying that we're trying to build a better society, better than something that we have not known, that means we got to take ourselves 500 years before we even knew what our society was supposed to be about here in this new world. And we see that it has been, we've been, as Malcolm says, we've been catching hell, and we want to reverse the damages, the ravages, the social imprints, the cultural imprints that have done nothing to uplift who we are as individuals and communities and the race, but to literally kind of break those chains, those mental, spiritual, economic chains, and create. And now, can we do it just by speaking these words? No, and that is the challenge for us. Transformation, transmutation, change has to occur from self, the individual. If you know better, you do better. So we have to begin to talk about what does better look for us as new Africans. We're not talking about anybody else. We're saying new Africans because we're building our society, which is going to be in alignment with the world society, the international society. So it's very, very important that we actually resonate and begin to create a new culture for ourselves, because that means education, business, the whole gamut of what it looks like to create a new society, from the most menial thing to the most complicated. I
Mm-hmm.
yield.
Okay.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, I mean, y'all all said, very important things. I mean, one thing, that kind of stuck out was, we have to take a scientific approach to this. If we're going to make a society that is, as best as we possibly can, we have to analyze the things that are going on now, the things that were happening in the past, and we have to take the best of everything, and we have to analyze the contradictions and the things that have presented or are prevented human beings from reaching our highest potential. And we have to eliminate that, and we have to look at those things that have allowed us to grow and flourish and be our best selves. And we have to build upon those things, and we have to take a real analytical, scientific approach in putting these things together. And we have to take our emotions and our how we feel, and I believe it ought to be that we ought to set that aside, and we got to do what's best for the people, because at the center of this is a unconditional love for the people, for yourself and for the people. You can't love the people if you don't love yourself, because we are the people, you know.
Exactly.
Uh, but with that, Summer, what we got on tap for the show today?
Well, this is a good show. We have lined up in our Black Power file. We're going to be going over the Memphis massacre of 1866.
Mm,
You know, we're going to do that in the Black Power File. Now, the Cadre Corner, we're going to go over some a list of things that we need to do for our individual selves and our families in terms of survival, right?
Mm.
Anything that may take place, emergency survival, anything that needs to take place to make sure we are extremely well prepared. You know, preparation is everything. And then
Yes.
we're going to discuss in our main topic. We're going to discuss how can we keep our community safe from internal and external threats. This is
Mm.
this is important because we see those threats all day, every day. And how are we going to keep our community safe? So we're going to have that discussion. But I know, first off, I know you got some things in the news that we need to.
Yep, definitely. Always have a lot on the news to talk about. So let's jump right into it. April 3rd, there was a 16-year-old black child, young man, unarmed, was shot in the head and the leg for simply knocking on the wrong door. Shot by a white man because he knocked on the wrong door. Like I said, April 13th, Ralph Yarl was trying to pick up his younger siblings. And he was confused about the address. Maybe he wrote the wrong address in his GPS or something like that. But he ended up going to a house that was about a block away from the house that he was supposed to be in. So he knocked on the door. White man came, opened the door, and shot him twice through the glass part of the door, through a glass door. Now, this young man, 16-year-old boy, this baby, got up and he ran. And to add insult to injury, he ran to a neighbor's house to try to get help. The neighbors wouldn't even let him in. He ran to another neighbor's house. The neighbors would not let him in. He had to go to 3 houses before someone would even get this baby, 16-year-old baby who was shot in the head, in the leg, help. Now, fortunately, this young brother survived, and he looked like he's gonna be okay. Looks like he's going to be okay. But police took the 84-year-old Andrew Lester in custody, asked him a few questions, and let him go. And that was pretty much it until people in the community started acting a fool, protesting like we always got to do. And they finally arrested this guy. And that's kind of where we stand right now. He pled not guilty, said he was afraid to death because it was a nigger at my door. Why would I had no other choice. I had to shoot him. So, once again, fortunately, the brother looks like he's going to be okay. But what do y'all think about this story right here?
Okay, I'm gonna start off because you already know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is proof further that it is not illegal. Y'all stop thinking it's illegal to kill black people in this country. It's not. We not citizens. We act like we citizens in this particular country. We are not citizens. Okay, we are prisoners of war. We have to keep remembering this. Like, I don't know why we expect other than. We expect other than. And that's not the reality. We got to start dealing in our reality. Now, us dealing in our reality, what is our response to this? Not reaction. The reaction is like Brother Prophecy always says, is to march, to, all these different things, which is, hey, what is our response, our overall response to keep these things from occurring? What is our response? And I'm happy that we're going to be discussing that today on our main topic. We'll go further into. We have to know what the proper response needs to be. I yield back.
Definitely. Mama Ayo, you have any response or any thoughts on this?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely know that this is another verification, another example of the attitude of white supremacy, racism, neocolonialism, colonial settler attitudes against people of African descent, new Africans. And you can clearly see that psychologically. I'm asking us to look at this picture. Here's an old man, and you have this 16-year-old, highly melanated young man who knocks on a door. He opens it up. He immediately, because 84 years old, you probably figured, okay, he got some glitches. He's aging. His mind isn't functioning properly as it should, because you could clearly see that this young man was non-aggressive, just trying to see where his sisters and brothers were. And yet you go, and that's the saving grace, by the way, by shooting him through the glass, it slowed
Mhm.
down the bullet.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd be talking about death, not recovery. So the whole fact is, you psychologically in this country, psychologically, their psyche, their method of thinking, white supremacy and racism, is that our Black men, just from the look of them, are a direct threat. They fear, and in order to I guess address that fear, it is shoot first and ask questions later. And the response of government, the response of law enforcement is, oh, you only did what you're supposed to do. Anytime you see a Black person, if you can get away with shooting them and there's not going to be any repercussions, you must do so. That is the underlying message here. Underlying message. And it's not talking about Black man. That's a Black young man. That is a teenager. That is still a child. He's not even considered a young adult. But you can, on the flip side, that young man can go to prison for petty crimes or theft or et cetera, et cetera. So I want us to look at the imbalances. And this is real, y'all. This real time. And we need to make sure that our analysis is really clear, knowing that this is happening every single day. And we just hear one example. Yeah, there has to be not a reaction to it, but a plan of action towards this particular type of behavior and execution of our people.
Ashe.
Definitely. And one thing to note, like you said, he's an older man. He's 84 years old. So he remembers a better time for them. He remembers when America was great again, like Donald Trump is trying to bring back. Yes. Yeah. So, he remembers a time where you could just do that and it wouldn't even make the news, it'd just be a rumor. You hear about what happened to Lil Ralph? Yeah, he got shot in the head,
Yep.
and people just say, well, he had to do something.
Thank you.
So that's what it is. But moving on. Last Tuesday, Carolyn Bryan Dunham, the lady who set up the young teenage Emmett Till to be lynched by lying on him, died, boo-hoo, at age 88 from cancer. She was in hospice care. And hospice care is basically, where you go when you're about to die, and they make your transition a little easier. And she finally succumbed to cancer, and a lot of people are thinking of, well, damn, ain't that nice for her? She was just allowed to just die of natural, well, if you want to call cancer a natural cause, but just die of old age, basically. She caused all of this hell, this drama, this damage, this trauma to our people. And she just died, even though recently we discovered an arrest warrant for this lady's arrest that had been sitting in a Mississippi courtroom for over 50 years. It had not been served. And even though there was an outcry to say, okay, finally, let's get a little justice. We can't get real justice, but let's just get a little justice, because we got the arrest warrant that y'all wouldn't do. But it's a different time now. Clearly, y'all can bring her to justice now. And the white power structure said, no, 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 we're not going to do any of that. So what do y'all feel? It's finally passed away. How do y'all feel about this whole situation?
Good. She
I would
passed away.
like to read. Oh,
Fantastic.
okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, good. Passed away. Fantastic. That should have happened a long time. She should have been had a death sentence. She should have died then. That's my. You know, but like I said, it's not illegal to kill black people here. Obviously.
Definitely.
What I would say, or veggie back on what President Sa says, is that we collectively, as a collective group, in the name of truth and righteousness and justice and reciprocity, may her soul not rest, and may it burn in whatever hell you
Mhm.
conceive, because she admitted her guilt. There is no forgiveness. Forgiveness comes with reparations and the power structure again. White supremacy, racism, capitalism, neocolonialism, settler colonialism upheld that particular action. And it's still being upheld. There was nothing moving forward despite our voices, despite our demands, which obviously our demands mean nothing in this country, because she was allowed to live out her life um, with what they consider quality. However, if she was a Nazi war criminal, she would have been strapped to that bed
Mhm.
and possibly given a lethal injection. So you have the brothers and sisters who are from all denominations of spirituality, including the Jews. They allowed this woman to still exist, to still, uh, live in comfort. They had her hidden, and we're supposed to be like, oh, okay, she's finally dead, and there's nothing. I mean, she needs to still be charged posthumously. Just like they give awards posthumously, she still needs to be charged. What that looks like, I have no idea. But the fact that we put it out into the universe that we need to address it, just because she dead, don't mean she should not be charged. But that's just from our perspective of justice. And with that, I yield.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a lot of good points. Thinking if she was a Nazi, if she was charged with crimes against these so-called Jewish people, she would be convicted. And just proof within that, in 2022, a 97-year-old woman, ex-Nazi, was arrested and charged. Also 2022 in June, a 101-year-old former Nazi jailed for his involvement with the so-called Jewish Holocaust. So, I
Exactly.
mean, yeah, the
It's,
proof is
it,
in the pudding. There, it is like you say, it is not illegal to kill black people in this country.
I mean, but
You
we
know
can. I mean, if we really want people charged, we can charge. And
exactly.
people's court, we charge them, and we televise. Say this person has been charged, and and we can go further into our discussion when we talk later with some of those things are going to be looking like. But that's up to us. These folks are not going to do anything for us. We have to do that for ourselves. You know,
absolutely.
put people on blast and have the ways and means to rectify. You know what I'm saying? Because otherwise, it's not going to happen. And we've seen. How do we know? Well, we've seen it over and over and over and over and over and over until
Absolutely.
and we're gonna keep seeing it until we decide that we're gonna do something different. Because we can charge folks.
Yes, we can. We are
Yeah.
definitely. So with that, I definitely concur, and that I mean, people's courts will occur, within the paradigm of our justice system, and I feel like that's a really really good idea. That she still will be charged posthumously. I don't know what that's going to look like or how that's going to look like, but we definitely, we're going to get justice for Emmett Till on behalf of his mother and family. By any and all means necessary.
Yes, yes. Want to go to the audience real quick to acknowledge some people out there. We see you out there. Thank y'all for checking in. Young Hamisha Howard, how you doing, brother? Free the land.
Land.
Hope everyone day is going good so far, and it is, and it's going just a little bit better now that you checked in. Good to hear from you as always.
Good.
Charlotte Carpenter said, "Peace and power, Queens." And I'm
Peace.
assuming talking to y'all.
Yes.
Peace and power to
Peace.
you too, Sister Carpenter. And what's that? Makio Zulu Shakur. He said, Hamisha Howard, have a blessed day, brother. And happy for you. So happy to see you checking in. And we're going to go to a brief break. But when we come back, we're going to have us a cadre corner. And we're going to be talking about some survival things we need to survive. Make your survival list. You know what I'm saying? So just in case when things hit the fan and things happen, we'll be prepared for it. But we'll be right back right after this. This is the New African Perspective. Free the land, y'all.
By any and all means necessary.
I fight for land, independence, and for reparation. We gotta do for self-determination.
Being independent is a very, very good thing because it means that you don't have to be dependent, especially on people who don't like you. I mean, growing your own food, like teaching your own babies our real history, the real truth.
As a people, we are not grown unless we have independence. We are not grown as long as we living under another man's system, operating in his way of things, his laws, and his ordinances that support his rule, actually. So to me, it's not the importance of self-determination and independence. It is mandatory.
Or we could make a change, get off our ass, do something else. Go get some land together, grow our food and do for self. Create our own stores.
Study the writings, speeches, documents of our freedom fighters in order to free our neo-colonialized minds. This is the Cadre Corner.
All right, Mama, yo.
Okay, Free the Land. Comrades, today we're going to be talking about some items and some strategies that we're asking new Africans to have in your homes in order to prepare for any disasters. First of all, you definitely need to sit down with your family, your wife, children, mates, etc., grandmamas, aunties, and have an evacuation plan in case of a fire, flood, electricity, how you're going to communicate with each other. If there is something that you need to tell them, like get out of the house quickly, there needs to be a code developed. There needs to we as a family, your family needs to know in case there's a fire in the middle of the night, who does what, which place, which windows need to be breached, which doors need to be run out of, because we've had too many disasters where everyone in the house has perished. We need to know, because fire immediately induces that panic feeling. We have to be very methodical, making sure we stay low to the ground, get water into a whole bunch of towels and blankets. What will we do if it's on the second floor? How will we get ourselves out through blankets, using them as a ladder, an improvised ladder, etc., etc. So what happens if our electricity goes off in the city? What do we need to do? How do we need to ration ourselves? So a lot of things we want to talk about, how much water you should be storing. In other words, don't drink all your water. There has to be some put up. There is a formula that we need to have. If you have children, what are the things that we need to have in our homes that are canned goods? We need to have enough canned goods. We need to have a can opener. We need to have ways in which to heat or to warm up items. So those are a lot of different ways in which we have to just incorporate into our house. Many of us, like the people in Mississippi right now, a tornado took them out. they took out everything. So what happens in those cases? And the people, the food, water, shelter, clothing isn't coming right away. We have to teach our children and ourselves, this is how we're going to live for right now. We're not going to have access to TV. We're not going to have access to going down the store and getting water and food. So these are some alternatives. What are the kinds of first aid kits that you need in your home? Everyone needs to have those things. So here are a few items that I want to ask people to consider. Make sure that you have batteries and that they have that you're able to utilize. Um, don't put them in places where they're going to explode or rot away. You definitely need candles. You need a source of what we call fire, whether it's a fire starter or matches that you put in plastic and keep them in a safe place. You need to be able to utilize the lint from your dryer and mix it with Vaseline to create a quick fire starter if you're having issues. A lot of canned goods. If your family doesn't eat meat, you need to make sure you have a whole bunch of cans of beans, dried beans if you can. We need to have, those of us that do eat, make sure you have sardines, crackers. Make sure you have what do you call it, materials to make sure you clean yourself. What about if you're really, the source of water is gone? You need to have some purification techniques such as tablets, etc., etc. So what do you do if we don't have water and we're cut off? You might want to make sure that you are looking at your hot water heater. You're looking at the bathroom facilities. You are making sure that there is no what we call wastage. Teach your children. You know, you can't drink all of this right now. You're going to have to drink a couple of swallows in order for everybody to exist for a while. And these are extreme conditions, but it doesn't mean that they will never, ever happen. You need to make sure that there's at least a change of clothes for everybody, just packed away in case you may have to evacuate. It's you don't take your whole house, but what are the necessary? Make sure you have enough diapers, sanitary pads for the women who are still on their cycles. Ways in which you and that's just simple things. What about if you really have to be on the move? You have to have something packed in your car. You may have to have a tent, just an individual tent. You may have to have what we call tarps in order to lay on the ground in case you may have to be in a tent city for a while. You want to have you want to be as prepared as possible in case you have to leave. You may want to look at making sure you have extra rolls of toilet roll. Definitely you need to have soups, shampoos, scissors, and they have to be in a pack them in a duffel bag or in a backpack. So everyone in your house knows, grab your backpack. You have certain things in them for you so that you know that you have your toothpaste, you have a couple of bottles of water to start you off. So there are different levels of how to prepare for survival in the worst case scenario. And we pray that that doesn't happen, but you still need to be prepared. Make sure, of course, flashlights. Now we have solar flashlights, solar cookers, all types of things. And how are you getting all of this? Because hopefully you're ticking it off. Got that, got that, got that, got some more. Make sure that you have a source of a blanket, what we call a reflector blanket, so that it breaks the chill. Make sure that you have some type of mosquito or bug spray ointment, as well as aloe vera gels. Those of us that are more homeopathic versus allopathic, put your herbal first aid kit together and make sure that you keep them refreshed at all times. I know I've given everyone quite a bit, but there are a lot of stuff for us who are into a little bit deeper survival. You have your shovels, you have your ability, of course, to have your weapons. and your ammunition, making sure that you're bringing your gun oil with you, bringing your, what we call your matchet, your knives, and various things, because if you have to live out in the woods, you need shovels, different things, and of course rope, strong knives. There's all kinds of things. And how can you get to some of these? There's all kinds of websites that talk about survival techniques, and we invite you to go to a couple of websites to actually download. And our strategy is, how are we going to get all of these things and have them in a space in our house and have our children talking about it, prepared for it? Because our children, once we teach them, they will know and they will lead us, and they will definitely be our saviors. And sometimes, just like you tell them to dial 911, you're telling them and training them in case of disaster what to do. We recommend that you use Walmart, you use, of course, the World Wide Web to order various things. Make sure you do some cost effective, but once a week or once a month when you get paid, buy something that is specifically for survival. It's being put in a certain place. Your children know where it is. So in case of emergency situations, which we pray never happens, but it's better to be prepared than trying to run around and grab things at the last minute. So basically, these are encouragements. And we actually ask you to go into the website of the Red Cross. They give you some excellent ideas as to how to prepare for disaster, what to have in your home, if you have to, leave suddenly, what to grab, how to grab it, already have it packed, and etc. So with that, I yield.
Excellent and extremely important topic. Like you said, you got to be prepared for whatever happens, whether that is a natural disaster or even a man-made disaster. We remember Hurricane Katrina. We remember our people on top of buildings with water, surrounded by water, and the government just not coming to help out.
Exactly.
Our people crying out, we need help. Alligators attacking dead bodies. You seeing your grandmama getting in a death row sparrow with an alligator because they're out there with no help. So if we've seen these things happen in the past, then at some point in time, we got to take it upon ourselves to do what we have to do to make sure that we can survive whatever comes down the pipe. And just the advice on some quick, because I'm actually a survivalist myself. It's a rule that you want to think about in survival. It's called the rule of thirds, the rule of threes, more specifically. And it's just to get you in the right mindset of what you need to be looking out for, because a lot of people don't know. You'll be looking for the wrong thing, and before you know, something will take you out that you ain't even think about. So the rule of threes says, if you're in a survival situation, you got about 3 hours to survive with no shelter. Now, most people think, oh, I got to get some food, I got to get this, but no, the number one thing you need to get is shelter. Now, this varies depending on whatever your situation is. If you're in a tropical environment where it don't get under 70 degrees, you got a little longer. But if it gets anywhere from like 50 degrees, 55 or below, and it starts raining, you can die of hypothermia really quick. And they don't have to be really cold. You don't have to be freezing. If you just out in the environment and you don't have shelter and it starts raining and your temperature gets below a certain level, you can be dead in the morning. So it says you got 3 hours to survive. That's in bad weather without shelter. You got about 3 days to survive without water. So that don't mean you're going to die after 3 days. But after 3 days, if you haven't had any water, your body is going to start breaking down. It's going to be really difficult for you to function. So water is also very, very important. Now, actually, you got about 3 weeks to survive without food. You can survive without food for a long time, actually, So that's just
Right.
basic rules to, if you get in a situation where you gotta bug out, you gotta leave your home for whatever reason, you in a tornado situation and you out about and you gotta survive to the next day or next couple of days, then like, okay, I need to find some shelter. I need to find some cover. I gotta be able to get me some type of water. So I need those things, either that water or some methods of purifying my water. And then
Exactly.
last you can worry about your food. You know what I'm saying? But it's a lot. It's a lot to it, and I suggest we take these type of things serious because they say if you stay ready, you never have to get ready.
That's
Uh,
correct.
and with that, that brings us to our topic.
I was about to add, Brother Prophecy. Can I
Oh,
add?
okay, go for it.
It's because you started talking about some of the basic things, like, because it's a lot of stuff you can put in your bag. It's a lot of stuff you can put in your house. You just want to make sure you start with the basic things.
Mhm,
You mentioned shelter, a light source, right?
Thank
mhm.
you.
Some type of light source, something that you can start a fire or something with, like Mama
Yes,
I
right.
your starter. You want to and when we talk about shelter, it can be as simple as just a tarp, y'all, and some string.
Yep.
You know what I
Yes, right.
mean? You don't
That's
got to
correct.
have this whole like fire. You start with the basic, simple things. Make sure you have one thing that will get you is bugs. All right.
Mhm.
Like if you have to leave out and you out and about, what will get you first is bugs. So you want to make sure
Thank
you
you.
got something in your in your bag as well. And then if you want to make sure you have a blade, some type of
Mhm.
blade so you can cut. You can
Thank you.
make things. You can make certain things do what it do if you have the basic things. So you don't want to get caught up ate by bugs. You want to have proper shelter, like Brother Prophecy said. You want to have water source or ways and means to catch rainwater too. If
Mhm.
you just
Mhm.
out and about and it's basic stuff that you gotta have. All right, and then look, sometimes stuff don't happen for a long time. You want to refresh your bag, like go in there, make certain things is not stuck together because of heat. Keep it in the room temperature area. If it has to be in some place warm, like a attic or someplace out the way, just check in it every once in a while to make sure everything's still usable. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's very, very important because I have had situations where you thought you had stored batteries and things like that, and you go and wow, stuff's been exploded, rusted, and
Mhm.
we don't need that. We need to make sure that we don't have to panic at the last minute thinking. So it's real good. Make sure you're looking at your canned goods. They should not be expired too many years. I mean, really, once it's expired, you need to switch them out. Because we've been taught to have a lot of different cans of whatever, and at certain times you want to have those types of foods that if you don't have a heat source, you won't totally be grossed out by eating it cold. If you understand what I mean.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you got to be wary about some of those things. Some stuff you can't eat cold. It's not
You got
so.
survival inventory. That's what that sounds like. Survival inventory. Like, you know,
Yeah.
as you put more stuff in, that stuff that's in the back, you know how you do inventory for a bit, you gotta
Mhm.
bring that to the front so you can
Thank you.
using that up here and there, especially if it look like it's about to expire. We don't like wasting stuff either, y'all.
Yes.
Just take inventory of your survival goods. You have to, or else it's gonna sit there and you're gonna be opening up water that tastes straight up like plastic.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
I'm just saying.
Yes, it is, because and we have to take that into consideration. Um, and one of the things that I want to encourage people is to make sure you're doing a lot of dried fruits, nuts, because they do tend to last a little longer. My best friend is peanut butter. I'm sorry. I can eat that and peanut butter on cracker, whatever. Just making sure you're because that's the way it is. We're gonna be eating minimally until the crisis has been resolved. So people can't be eating thinking they going to this, that, and the other. Have those things in your house and learn to discipline your appetite. Make sure your children, put things away where They can keep themselves busy. You'd be surprised how many people don't know what to do if technology is totally wiped out.
Exactly. Exactly. And one thing that a lot of people don't think about, especially if you have to survive for an extended time, the type of food that you've been eating, if you've not been eating well, you will go into a detox after a
Thank
certain
you.
time, and
Yes.
you won't even know what's going on. Because a lot of times when you're hungry, you got these headaches and stuff, and not necessarily because you're hungry, it's because your body is craving the chemicals that you are addicted to. So
Thank you.
that's just something that you want to, think about how you are preparing yourself now. Because, like, look at a survival show, like some of these survival shows when they gotta survive in the woods for 40 days or whatever. A lot of people, you see people say, oh, okay, I'm used to drinking my daily coffee and all of this type of stuff, and one day they just laid out like, oh, I don't know what's going on, like a crack addict, but yeah, but that leads us to our topic for today. um how can we prepare ourselves so we can keep our community safe from both internal and external, natural, any type of threat that comes down into our community that comes to bring harm to us? How can we defend ourselves from it? How can we protect ourselves from it? How can we keep our communities safe? So I'm gonna open that up to anybody.
I want to talk about the soft version first before we get a
Okay.
little bit deeper. The soft
Okay.
version. And that's basically just making sure that your particular neighborhood um, knows who you are, making sure you know who your neighbors are. Really just trying to uh, institute certain principles, as we always talk about. We cannot be individualistic. We have to show concern. We have to show love and protection, because one of the biggest thing is who in the annals of history has not defended and protected the women, children, and the elders from both internal and external issues. There used to be a time where we could go and talk it over and make sure that everything is good, and that leads us to basically elders defense, making sure that we're monitoring. Back in the day, there used to be a time where if the community was so crunked up through drugs, alcohol, violence, we would call in the Nation of Islam, and the Nation of Islam would send the fruit of Islam, because they've been trained, they know, and everybody in the community knew, don't do that. We're letting you know, giving you fair notice that this particular area is off limits to the things that we've identified is not good for us. And that has to be instituted, not just from the nation, but from all what we call all areas of organizations. Because if we, all of us, are saying that it's about the family, the community, the nation, and the race, we all have to have what we call our let's say citizens, our citizens collectives that are identified and introduced to the community. We finna be walking up and down here. If you have any issues, if mama over there, we know she's 84 years old and she got a little dementia and her people ain't around, keep an eye on her. Make sure you find out a number. Mama's down the street again. We gonna take her back to the house. You understand what I'm saying? To show concern, making sure that the young women are spoken to respectfully. There's just different levels of what has to happen, and making sure that the brothers, who are our main source of defense and protection, are coordinated in their action and their love for not only themselves, but for other brothers and the women and children and the elders that are depending on us, depending on them. And of course, the sisters have their own, they have to be able to defend the children and the elders and themselves as well. So for me, I'm going to talk lightly, because it's all about everybody got to go to the gun club, y'all. Everybody got to have some workshops on dismantling and putting together weapons. Everybody got to know They just got to know stuff. We got to go out into the woods. If I did a survey right now of anybody who regularly schedules trips into the woods, building fires, putting up tents, sleeping overnight in, reasonable weathers, we wouldn't get many folks. That's a problem. That's an issue. And I yield.
Yes, indeed. So, Mama Ayo, it sounds like you're saying that, we have to take some real initiative if we want to keep our neighborhood safe, huh? Sounds like some real organization on the family level, right? Just your street level. Your folk down there in the corner of your cove, right? Right next to you might know this one. Do you know the one across the street over here on the cattle corner? I mean, these are this is what you're saying, like initiative to get to know folks, to make sure, even to organize your street. Y'all could be stacking stuff together. You could or be organized and say, okay, I'm gonna get the water. You got the canned goods. You got the this. You got the that. Building those type of relationships. I would say we got to work. She's saying we got to take initiative. Ashe.
Definitely. And you said a very important word. That's organized, because we have to organize our community. That's kind of something we have to, especially the people who know better, people who got this knowledge. Because when things happen, you don't just abracadabra magically know what to do. If you don't know what to do, then you perish. So those of us who do know have to take on the initiative and take on the responsibility of creating the type of programs that's going to educate the people. So we have to organize programs in the community so they will know what to do, whether that is once a month in a community center or some type of area in which you can meet people, have survival training classes on everything that you talked about, everything that we talked about, everything you need, and have set up demonstrations to the point where we're collectively going out to the wood and saying, okay, we're putting these things into practice. We're showing how to build a fire. We're showing how to build improvised stove, how you can take a paint can and some toilet tissue and some alcohol, 71% to 91% isotope alcohol, and create you a stove that you can put in your house that won't smoke up the house and kill you, but it'll keep you alive. You can put it in your car. You laughing because we did that before.
It's fun. This stuff is fun. Y'all just do it.
Yeah. It's very fun, but we have to take the initiative, like you said, and we have to organize ourselves. First, we have to organize our family. We have to make sure that our family is on point, and we know what we need, and we have what we need, and we got our plan down. And we got to organize our community, and we got to really look at our community just like we look at our household. Look at all of the streets, the terrain, knowing the points where you can get cut off, points where you can escape your neighborhood if necessary, because usually communities are set up militarily nowadays. So if the government or power it be ever get in a situation where they feel that their citizens, so-called citizens, are out of control and they're in rebellion, they can just lock down the city so people can't get in and can't get out. Well, you got to understand all of those points and understand the back roads and how to get out of your neighborhood, out of your community, and out of to a safe place. You need that rendezvous point where, if things go bad, this is where we're going to meet. So like I said, the key is organizing, and doing it in a real intentional way. Because we can have show after show after show after show. We can have a whole show dedicated to survival. And we will always come up with new methods of survival, new tools, new things you can do, because it's just so much to learn. But it's not just good enough to just know this. We got to share it with our community, and that's on one level. That's on the level of a natural survival, a natural disaster, or some type of emergency. But then it's another level of threat that we have to defend ourselves against. We have to defend ourselves against individuals who want to come in our community, or individuals who are already in our community who want to cause harm to us. We got to organize on that level. And there needs to be security forces within our community that we control, that our enemies don't necessarily know anything about. They don't even know they exist. So when we have people like a Carolyn Bryan or this, what's his name, Lester, the 84-year-old white man who want to shoot black babies in the head, if the police don't do what they supposed to do, then okay, we have another option. We have an alternative form of justice that we're not depending upon this white power structure to give us. You know, we've had organizations like this in the past, you know, but we have to create them and they have to be trained. You know, we have to stop being afraid of our children. We have to be strong enough and brave enough to go to the leaders of these street organizations and get them and transform their mentality. And so they can, instead of being a terror on the community, they can be a defense force for the community. And that's something a lot of people say, I ain't doing that. It ain't impossible because it's been done before. I have witnessed it, been a part of it. There are some great soldiers who are in the new African independence movement right now, part of our collective right now, who was leaders of street gangs, leaders of Crips, you know. So that can be happening. Just, you know, it ain't gonna happen by accident. It ain't gonna happen, you know, by us wishing and hoping. You know, we gotta actually be strong enough, be brave enough to do it, you know, and because we can complain about it. We love to complain about how the youth are just out of control and all of these type of things. We get real good at that, but at some point in time, we're gonna have to stop complaining and actually do something about it, you know, because if you're just complaining about it, then what are you doing? You're adding to the problem. You're simply you empower those things that you're giving energy to, and you're just giving energy to the problem and not the solution. And I'm a yield on that.
And I definitely I'm very, very supportive of everything that has been said. And that's talking about internal issues where and it goes into what we call violence, domestic violence, child abuse, child molestation, rape, all of those particular things that we know quickly. The voice of the community knows, somebody bears witness, somebody needs to be called, because a lot of times we don't want what we call the powers to be involved. We're talking about instant justice, making sure we've gathered all the information, making sure all parties are being brought forth, because we have a lot of violence towards each other, amongst each other, and we must begin to minimize. And that will come with time, and as you said, organization. And I'm going to use my word, being intentional about what we will not accept. And it's unfortunate because a lot, what we're saying, because if we're living by the Nguzo Saba, the New African Creed, the laws of Ma'at, and any other spirituality that tells us as melanated spiritual beings, these things are not acceptable. Are we saying it is acceptable to have the rape and murder and abuse of our boy children, our girl children? Are we saying that's okay? Are we saying that it's okay for women to beat on men and men to beat on women? Are we and to do horrible things to children? Are we saying that's okay? I'm not even talking about the laws of the United Snakes of America. I'm talking about man's law. Man's law. That's what we call universal laws. Are we saying that's okay? It's okay to steal and murder indiscriminately? That sounds like anarchy to me. And we don't live by anarchy. That's not who we say we are. So are we saying what happens? There is, for every action is a reaction. What is the action that New African law, New African people are going to take based on that? So that's that internal that we have to deal with from our personal and family, because we have family predators, family stuff in closets that have to be dealt with. And because it does spill into the society and into our educational systems, our social systems. But then we have an external enemy. There's no way that we can see 4 and 5 police cars in a neighborhood. I'm not talking about on the highway, in our neighborhood, and everybody just walking by. That should never happen. Come out your houses and stand and bear witness. And if it gets crunk, like we saw them coons, 5 policemen come and be kicking a defenseless Black person, Black woman, Black child, Black man, and we don't come forward. Yes, we're calling for mob action. Get their asses, because you wrong. Why are you doing that? Let him up, and you give them their warnings, and after that, it's on and popping. That's the kind of positive action we're talking about. Take pictures, video, make sure that it gets to a point, and when you clearly see somebody dying in front of us because somebody's foot is on their neck and they're kicking them almost to death, we just gonna stand there and bear witness because we become immune to injustice against us? That's ridiculous.
Definitely.
That is what we talk about, the external enemy, because you're showing us through your action that you're not for us. You're not about us. You don't care about us. You don't love us. So those are the kind of organizational and intentional conversations that have to be made. And because we've said it as the women, it's time for the brothers to step forward, along with us, of course. Step forward and stand and defend. There's nothing else to say. Stand and defend. I'm going to yield.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I agree 1,000%. I mean, a lot of times we, it's obvious that our people, we're fed up with certain things in our community. We're fed up, but too many times I think we experience something called learned helplessness, where you feel like you can't do anything. But the reason why we feel like we can't do anything is because we're not in control over the institutions and the things that have power over our community. But we're not in control of that is because we've been trained and conditioned to believe that we can't be in control of that. They have had a systematic attempt to remove us from being in control of that. But the reality is we can. We can gain that power. We have the ability to take control of everything within our community. We have the skill, we have the know-how, we have the ability. And we've done these things before. Absolutely. All throughout America, we have created independent Black communities, townships, cities, all of the above. We have done that. And when we understand that the things that we keep on, talking about land, independence, self-determination, these are the things that's really a threat to the system of white supremacy. That's why they attack them so viciously. They don't care about you going to school, about getting out there. Hey, we need to educate ourselves, definitely, especially we need to have the right type of education. But they don't care about you going to school because they control the school. They control what you're learning. They don't care about you going out and getting a gun because they've already conditioned you to kill yourself. They don't care about any of those things. But they do care about you becoming independent of their power. Because once you become independent of their power, then they can't control your educational system. They can't control what you learn. They can't control how you think. They can't control what you do with that gun. So now you having a gun is dangerous to them because they know that if they try to exploit you and brutalize you and oppress you like they've been doing, well, damn, they are free-minded people. They're probably going to turn that gun on the person that should have been turned on in the first place. So, what we're talking about, the need to take care of our community, to secure our community, goes right in hand with what we always talk about, independence, gaining control of our communities. So we do that. we do that, then, we will have the ability to shape our reality as we see fit. Because I know we hear it all of the time. We hear it all of the time, but we just got to stop believing that we are helpless and there's nothing we can do, because that's not true. There is a lot we can do. We just got to redirect that energy, redirect that focus. We spend a lot of money on the wrong things. We spend the money on the right things. We taking off. We spend our time and attention on the right things. We taking off. We talk about we need Black unity. We unify all the time. Last night, people was unified over the basketball game. You see that dude shoot that ball. He had 50 points. Yeah, we unified. We can unify over the game. We can unify on the next dance crave, whatever. We can unify on all these things. We just got to unify on the right thing. You know what I'm saying? So that's all it is. But yeah, we got to. Did you want to say anything before we move on?
Yep, I totally agree. And what has to occur is that while we are speaking about these issues, while we're organizing to set up these issues, that these particular what we call solutions, solutions to the issues that we have raised must become institutionalized. So we're building institutions, not just movements. These thoughts, these plans are demand for our 5 states in the South. Reparations are, monetary compensation, the institutions, the hotels, whatever we decide. They all have to be institutionalized from a new African perspective. What does hospitality, just as an example, what does hospitality look like from a new African perspective towards each other? Because we know that half the time we don't even want to talk to each other, don't want to look at each other, don't want to laugh with each other when it comes to hospitality. We don't even want to serve one another from a loving heart. Remember, got to work on that self-love so that love is in the community. Can you honestly walk up and down any community and feel love emanating from one another? So you got the capitalists or the Americans, they don't love you, and we don't have self-love. What kind of life are we living? What kind of paradigm are we in? Are we living, or are we just existing? What are we building? We're trying, as we said with the aims of the revolution, building a society better than we have known. Because if this is our reality that we're navigating through right now, we are do better. We are doing better. And this is what this looks like. When we talk about rebuild, self-determination, self-governance, self-improvement. We have that right. We have the human right to do that and to have these conversations and to offer these particular strategies to the masses for them to either say, I'm not with that, or yeah, I'm with you. That's all we can do. And with that, I yield.
Definitely.
To add to this very brilliant and very clear discussion, it's a lot. It is a lot for us to be doing. And I don't want us to be overwhelmed, because I think sometimes we get overwhelmed and then we don't end up doing anything. So I suggest taking it one step at a time. You say you're going to do something and put it in a schedule, and you just stick to that schedule. If it's one day out the week that you are making sure that you're checking in and training or doing whatever, stick to that. If it's every morning that you got something going on, do that. But just stay consistent so that you can grow and develop in whatever area that you have committed to, right? In terms of whether that's with your bug in process, your bug out, just being skilled with the tools that you do have. You know what I'm saying? Just stay consistent so that you can be prepared. Because if you think of everything at one time, and it's just a lot that has to take place. So just add on, but don't do nothing. Do something.
Yes.
You know.
I agree. Do something. Say something.
You understand what I'm saying?
Hmm. Definitely. If it's just a little step at a time, you'll get there, you know. Just got to be consistent. But we got a Black Power file coming up, and we're gonna be talking about something that happened right here in Ida Wells City in 1866. We heard about Rosewood and the terrible thing that happened. We heard about Black Wall Street and the terrible thing that happened there, but it's a lot of those massacres that happen all over America, and it happened right here in Memphis, Tennessee, and we're gonna talk about that when we get back. Y'all don't want to miss it, y'all. This is the new African perspective. Free the land.
America, full of promises. Time to cash them in. You run from it quick. You never keep your word. I learned from it quick. You keep abusing me. You dumb. Europeans murdered 98% of the indigenous population right here in Turtle Island in order to steal the land. An entire nation of African people were captured and forced into a brutal system of chattel slavery just so they could work and cultivate the land. All wars are fought over land. Not over terrorism, not over religion, not even to win the hearts and minds of the people, but for the actual land and the resources within the land. So it is safe to say that land is the foundation to all freedom. So if we truly want to be free, then our struggle is for land. Free the land. Leaders, scholars, freedom fighters, all those soldiers who've been struggling for the liberation of black people. This is the Black Power 5.
The Memphis Race Riots of 1866. In the city of Memphis, Tennessee, from May 1st to May 3rd, 1866, over 1 year after the end of the U.S. Civil War, 48 men were dead, 46 of whom were black freedmen, and most of them being veterans of the Union Army. 70 more were wounded, 5 black women were raped, 91 homes, 12 churches, and 4 schools were burned down. By the end of it, over $17,000 in federal property was destroyed in Memphis's worst race riot in history. Many black freedmen and veterans of the Civil War were forced to leave the city permanently. Even city police and firefighters made up 1/3 of the rioting mob that laid waste to the freedmen's neighborhoods. No one was persecuted after this massacre. How and why did this happen? After the capture of Memphis by Union forces in 1862, the city became a haven for refugee slaves trying to escape their former slave owners. From 1860 to 1865, the black population of Memphis increased from 3,000 to nearly 20,000. However, former slave owners in Memphis resented both their labor shortages and the groups of freed African Americans in their city, and urged the U.S. military to take action. The U.S. military decided to detain many African Americans, classified them as quote-unquote vagrants into custody, and forced them to accept labor contracts on plantations. According to local Reverend T.E. Bliss, in a letter to a U.S. general, how is it that the colored children in Memphis, even with their spelling books in their homes, are caught up by your order, taken to the same place, and there insolently told that they had better be picking cotton? Has it come to this, that the most common rights of these poor people are thus to be trampled upon, for the benefit of those who have wronged them all their days? Black soldiers attempted to intervene on behalf of their people, forced back onto plantations. Tensions arose in the city. Incidents of police brutality skyrocketed. The local police arrested the soldiers for minor offenses and treated them more harshly than their white counterparts. They also shoved and beat black civilians on the streets for the crime of quote unquote insolence. Finally, on May 1st, 1866, a large group of black soldiers and their families, wives and children included, were hosting an impromptu street party. A group of Memphis police officers was called to the scene. When the soldiers refused to disperse, the officers called for reinforcements. An officer accidentally shot himself in the leg while drawing his gun, blaming the injury on the African Americans. The conflict escalated, resulting in an officer being shot and killed. City police and angry white residents began to fire and kill several soldiers, some who were already fleeing or arrested. Eventually, in the late evening, the white mob began destroying various black homes in the area, looting them and assaulting their residents. Some of the black residents died when the mob forced them to stay inside their own burning houses. Schools and churches were also targeted and burned down. The violence continued through the entire day of May 3rd. One-third of the white rioters were Memphis's own police and firefighters, who engaged in the killing and looting and even the raping of a few black women. By the end of May 3rd, 46 African Americans were murdered. 5 black women were raped. 285 more were injured. And over 100 homes and buildings were burned to ashes. No arrests were ever made after the riots.
Sorry about that. So there was some information about the Memphis Massacre of 1866. They called it a riot in that particular film, but it was a massacre. There was no riot about that. Yeah, another part of history that was not put into the history book, and if the European power structure has their way, these things will never be put into the history book because they don't want us to learn about our history. But yeah, this happened right here in Memphis, Tennessee. 5 women raped, several churches, schools, libraries burned down, 46 people murdered, all because you had black soldiers who stood up and fought for our freedom. Well, I wouldn't say for our freedom, for the end of this system of chattel slavery, since they always say somebody freed us when the reality is we freed ourselves. But these soldiers who stood up and said, look, I'm trying to prevent our people from being re-enslaved, because a lot of people don't know that after the Civil War, basically there was a major campaign for white people to just force black people to continue to be enslaved. And our people stood up. And because of this, it was a massacre. What do y'all have to say about the Memphis Massacre 1866?
Okay, so this is just to add on to our story, our full story, because we do tend to think that these were just isolated events, but this was happening all over during the Reconstruction periods.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the reason why we don't have our own communities to this day. You understand what I'm saying? Because it has happened over and over and over again, and a lot of our stories, specifically the ones that happened in the country parts, not the city parts. You understand what I'm saying? Have never been told. You understand what I'm saying? People still don't know why grandpa and their uncles and their great grandparents and all of that moved to Chicago and Detroit, all of these different places. They had to go because it was not safe to be. And this is a prime example of the happenings, and that was just here in Memphis. You know what I'm saying? And remember, it was between those periods where they were saying these folks was fleeing. These are the stories. This is why my family is up in the north, huh? because we came from Alabama and Mississippi. So, you know, it's reasons for that. Reasons for when we attempt to build. This is why we say we're prisoners of war. Huh? No free people are constantly attacked
Thank you.
for building and living. So let's be logical. We were forced into integration, forced into the situation that we're in now to leave us. We can complain about the situation all we want to, but we have to know the roots of it. That's the reason why it's so important to know the history. How do we even get into this situation? How do we go from young men and women being very, very highly trained to be highly responsible, you know, responsible for community? I'm taking up this trade because I know I'm going to be responsible for building, right? This is when we knew what our responsibilities were. Yet, this is a prime example of how it was lost. The tactics that were used. You know, I'm going to force you back. No, you're not going to go to school. You about to get on this plantation and pick cotton. And if not, I'm about to kill you and everybody else. That type of shit. I mean, you know. I mean, and then just destroying property, mutilating bodies. You know, this is what it has been. This is what it is. And now we see it on biological levels, biological warfare levels. So it's still the same thing. Please do not get it twisted just because sometimes it look different. Sometimes. And I'm highlighting sometimes because from the story highlighted the young man getting shot, blown away on somebody's porch, just knocking on the door. You understand what I'm saying? Luckily he's still living, but still. I mean, this is our story.
Exactly.
And and never forget, remember that Memphis was controlled by the Union. Many of these soldiers, of course, were let go once. The black soldiers were let go during this particular time because we were trying to set up freedom schools, savings and loans, all types of things were occurring. And you had a population who had begun to come into Memphis, and they were the Irish. And of course, they came from the famine, the potato famine, and they wanted to come and establish their low life selves from England, from wherever they come from, Europe, to again establish themselves over the enslaved Africans, newly freed Africans. And this spirit of self-determination was purposely blocked, because remember, and don't ever forget, we had a 6-month window to establish our communities and to try to rebuild. And after those 6 months of so-called emancipation or proclamations that said we have the right to land, property, to set up our own communities, it was happening. It had to, exponentially. You had black masters among us. We weren't all just picking cotton, y'all. We had iron workers, seamstresses, carpenters, bricklayers, everything that we could utilize within ourselves. The only thing that we lacked was we couldn't openly show that we could read and write. So they did not want to see this happening. This is a prime case of jealousy, greed, that spirit of they had white privilege, and how dare these black people be able to do this? Because you don't come out of a war situation as a soldier to bow down to anybody. Who you think? And that was the tensions of that time, because our own people were trying to police us. As the population grew, we were creating our own justice, marriage. And this particular society here in Memphis did not like it, and it still exists today. They are hot. Don't you ever forget the psychology. They are angry that black people had the audacity to join the Union Army to kick their asses, and then was here trying to control government. Come on, y'all. Let's be real. Let's look at the black story. That is the attitude that most Caucasoids, European people have, that how dare we be in the forefront of anything on top of them. And that's what they call that, at Dr. Francis Quest Welsing, that is that survival instinct within them, because they already know they're under attack. So let's make sure we bring all elements. It's not just one way, it's a whole bunch of attitudes. And they used their particular laws, their Jim Crow laws and everything else, and their intimidation. Because remember, we're only coming 2-3 years out of enslavement. There's a whole mentality that has been embedded in Black people. And the only people that we had that tried to assist were the people who were the soldiers. They know what war, fighting, standing up, defending, because we were coming out of enslavement, chattel enslavement. And these people wanted us right back in there. They didn't give a care, because they economically had been damaged, because the cotton fields could not be done, because they didn't have what they needed for mechanized. They needed human labor to even make sure the planting, the growing, the harvesting, and they needed domestic works. They needed all of us, and they couldn't take it. They could not take it. And that's why they massacred, because they used every little excuse to shoot us up. Please remember, from 3,000 Black people to almost 29,000, that's a security risk, because you talking about more Black people than white people at that time. Let's be clear now. And so they had to use these excuses to control population. And it has never stopped, ever, despite us as melanated people still producing, still having children exponentially against them. We just have to be honest and open. There's no anger. There's no, trying to create a different narrative. It is what it is. This was it. This is that legacy, which we're still living, but in different, let's say they put on different costumes, different, attempts to make it look something different. It ain't no different. Not at all. I yield.
Yeah, definitely outstanding points. When you just look at it, you analyze it, you have a situation 1 year after the Civil War, this is 1866, 1 year after the, Emancipation Proclamation, well, that was in 1863, but, 1 year after the war is officially over, this ain't even the Juneteenth yet,
Thank you. Thank
you. And you have an explosion in this Memphis, Tennessee, an explosion in the Black population, that is by more than 10 times the population. And understand, with the increased population, that also has an increase of political power. When you have a majority, then you have power. That's one thing we need to understand in all these Black majority population cities. You got the majority, then you have political power. You need to understand how to use it. But not only do you have the explosion in this population, but you have ex-soldiers who are trained and who are armed and who've been, just a few years, just a year ago, who was killing y'all, who was laying y'all out, who defeated y'all, You have all of this dynamics going on. And when you examine all of the massacres, and there were many, there were many. We only hear about Rosewood and Black Wall Street, but all of them have similar elements. You had Black people with the potential to rule and take over this particular landmass and become independent of their power structure. That's what was going on here. That's what happened in Rosewood. That had already happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Absolutely. In several other places. So, that should tell you that the times that we were most viciously attacked were the times when we were on the verge. I had already achieved a level of independence from them. You know, even another event in Memphis, Tennessee, when the People's Groceries, it was an independent black grocery store who was out competing against the white ones. You know, they destroyed them and lynched them brothers. The reason why Ida B. Wells said, no, I got to do something about this. It was because there were some brothers who had reached a level of independence and they were competing and out competing with them. Because understand, doing them, like you said, we had the blacksmiths, the carpenters, we had the skills. Because for the last 200 and so many years, we were the workers. We were the cowboys of the West. You know, that's why they call them cowboys and not cowmen, because they was black. And cowboys weren't necessarily the people going around shooting people. They were the people who did the work, who brung the cows in and did. That's what a cowboy was, you know.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, we had all of this. So, you know, to bring that up to date, and what does that mean for us now? You know, during that time period, although there was opportunity for us, but we were viciously attacked. But today, as conditions have changed, we still got the same people, the same mentality, but we got some different conditions. So if we understand that their biggest threat is our independence, our control over our own resources and institutions, then that should tell us point blank what we should be trying to do. We should be trying to complete the efforts of our ancestors, because they started it way back then, even before the end of the Civil War, because Mount Bayou, Mississippi was created before the Civil War was even over. We had independent black cities and us doing our own thing. So if we understand that our biggest threat to this white power structure is our independence and us doing for self and taking control, then that's where our focus needs to be. Don't need to be focused on trying to figure out if we can find a Democrat or Republican that can come save us. It don't need to be worrying about, hey, everybody, we got to get out and vote. And if you don't vote, then you got to shut the hell up. It shouldn't be worried about none of that stuff. It should be worried about, hey, we need to get together and we need to control our block. We need to control a couple of blocks. We need to control the whole community. We need to control the whole city. And at that point, we need to have a vote, because maybe we need to just do this stuff all ourselves and let the world know it's time to do for self. That's called a plebiscite. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, you know, and I'm a yield on that. You
know. So one of the things that we're looking for always is sustainability, right? Because it's not that we haven't been building. We've been building ever since Reconstruction, right? In terms of after capture. Right? We've been building ever since Reconstruction. And so as we build, we see how our enemy moves. Do we not? We see how our enemy moves when we run into these, when we witness, when we hear about our history in terms of what has taken place, and when we witness today in terms of what takes place, because the same thing takes place. When anytime a Black person, male or female, gets into a position where they can create some type of power, oh, they're destroyed. Either they're assassinated, right? And it's made to look as though somebody else murdered them a lot of times, okay? But the same thing takes place. So if we know what happens, what should be, these are in planning and in building, our question should be, how do we, it goes back to our main topic, what are the ways and means in which we're going to move according to how we know our enemy moves, right? Because we got to build for sustainability. And to build for sustainability, meaning we got to move on offense, y'all, not just waiting for something to happen. We already know what's going to happen. We know what the mode of operation is. If we witness it and we see it with our own eyes, we got to move accordingly. And we cannot be afraid to move accordingly. And accordingly does not always mean seen. Okay? That's not wise. So don't think you got to be seen and you got to announce to the world what it is that you're doing. It's enough. All right, let's be smarter about it. Respect the unseen. That's how we we have to respect our laws, our universal laws, and in our universal laws respects male and female, seen and unseen. But you understand what I'm saying? We understand the ebb and flow. We got to get back to being wise and moving wisely, utilizing our science and our math to win, because we're going to win.
Definitely. Well, y'all, I think that's a good way to end thing, because we are definitely going to win. I think we did it again. Big ups to everybody who tuned in to the show. Was that Unwa Bantum number 2, respect from Jacksonville, Florida. How everybody down in Jacksonville, Florida doing? Confident Azoro OKK. Sister, this is a network we should try to be on. NABA. The cultural capital is Kush District, Memphis to New Orleans, Jackson, Mississippi to Arkansas. 18 connected Black counties. We can put cultural paradigms down here. Now, I'm agreeing with you that we definitely can, we will, and we are.
Absolutely.
Definitely appreciate everybody tuning in. Y'all gonna be on tomorrow with the Foundation of the Nations. Y'all gonna be back with that tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we back in stride. That's what's up. So yeah, join us tomorrow. As you know, I know we're gonna have a Black Tablets, Black Tackler topic on Foundation of the Nation, which we always do. But man, we appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for your conversation, for your words, for listening to us. And we will not, we promise you that we will not just be about talking about these things. We're going to be serious about bringing them into existence. We had a great Nation Day, saw some powerful things, and we just going to continue to build until ultimately the war is won. Because like Madam President said, we will win. With that,
we will win the war.
Yep. From Madam President Samaat and Madam Vice President Mama Ayodele, this is the New African Perspective. And we will see y'all again next week, y'all. We love y'all. Free the land.
If you could see what I see, our community and unity. No frustration from brutality. With our Black nation, a reality.
This is my perspective. It's my perspective. My perspective. My perspective.